Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 2021 Audit and Finance Committee meeting. We are kind of waiting on another board member so that we will have a quorum. Should be on shortly.
We're not live on YouTube yet, right? We are. We are.
Okay. Okay, I think we have our other committee member, so we will start the meeting with call to order, which I just did. I will now entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda as presented. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 2nd. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Move to.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item, Mr. Barori, is the fixed cost of ownership.
Yes, ma'am. Very quick item here for the audit and finance to vote on. It's fixed cost of ownership FY22 reallocation. Actually, it's not a reallocation, it's an allocation of $200,000 from our contingency line to school nutrition and facility services. The nutrition services requirement is an increasing cost for the serving lines that Mr. Campbell has been pursuing. So it would allow us to buy the expected number that the plan number from the beginning of the year. And then the remainder of the funds would go to pay for the washer and dryer hookups, utilities needed at 3 schools in which the board voted last month to authorize.
Does anyone have any questions about the reallocation for Mr. Barori? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Okay. Thank you for that. The next item is the capital, the 2010 through 2016 capital building program. Ms. Kennedy?
Ms. Costello is going to cover that. Sure.
Ms.
Thank you, Dawn. I'd like to present the 2010-2016 Capital Building Program Phase 3 Substantial Closeout as an information item. The projects have been completed and the financial close is taking place. And this is, as I mentioned, as information, so you can see on the attachments, the projects that have been closed out. And we have about 10 projects remaining. And once those projects have been completed and financially closed out, we'll bring you a second item for the final closeout of the 2010-2016 capital program.
Is it anticipated that they all will be completed by the cutoff in 2016? Do we have any reason to believe that any of them will need to carry over?
Well, this program ran through 2016, so technically these have been carried forward. So we really don't have a deadline, but as soon as they are completed, we will bring that final closeout to you.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, 2016. Are there any other questions from any of the committee members? Well, thank you, Joyce, for that information.
You're welcome.
Phase 5 capital maintenance plan. Ron?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Back in 2016, we completed a comprehensive condition assessment of all our facilities, developed a 20-year capital maintenance plan, and we've been executing that capital maintenance plan in phase 4 of the capital program. We're now just about to start year 6 of that phase 4 capital maintenance program. What you have before you is the next program. It's the phase 5 capital maintenance program for 2023 to 2028. It's about a little over 600 projects in 21 categories, 21 project types like HVAC and restroom, et cetera. And it's a $270 million of sales tax program. So it's proposed to you for approval.
Ron, is this the 2028 sales tax program?
Yes, ma'am. It sure is. So it's 6 more years of capital maintenance projects. About 100 projects per year in 21 categories.
And Ron, what's the process been to get to, I mean, it's obviously, that's a lot of capital, a lot of projects. Can you just give us a little color? I know I'm sure it's a large process, but how did you get to these specific projects, these dollar amounts? I mean, these are preliminary budgets, right? These things aren't costed out. You don't have construction budgets and all those things for all these projects at this point. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct. This really started with the facility condition assessment back in 13-14 that was finished in 2016. We took all those projects and put them into a software package called Capital Forecast Direct. It's a module of SchoolDude, of our maintenance management system. And the entering arguments for that system are type of facilities, when they were constructed, types of facility finishes and systems, and the life cycles of all those systems are built into the software. And so that creates kind of a straw man plan for when you need to do reconditioning of various systems in all our facilities. So it just spits out for you in 2022, you need to do these, 23, 24, et cetera. So there's that kind of framework. And then I have a full-time planner estimator whose job is to inspect our facilities. It takes them about 1.5 years to get around to all of them. So it's this continuous process of updating, making sure we have correct understanding of the condition of all those systems. And then as we're executing the various renovations that we're doing, there's a feedback loop. So we're going back and updating Capital Forecast Direct, say, okay, well, that roof got done, that paint job got done, what have you. So it's this continual machine of just assessing, updating, et cetera, like that. So it's a program straw man that's validated with human knowledge of the condition of the facilities.
And in the past, you all have shared with us, how we're doing on our capital spending, and frankly, how far behind we are in terms of deferred capital spend. Where does this leave us tracking relative to that sort of underfunding of our capital replacement?
The annual need right now is probably about $70 million, based on the new construction costs of about $350 a square foot for a fully completed facility, less the furniture and IT. So our capital need for this capital renewal work is about $70 million a year. With this $270 million, that's about $45 million a year. So I'll be getting $45 million in sales tax, and then I anticipate what we call 8% bond money, 10 million on top of that. So that gets me to 55 per year. And then of our regular FCO program, I probably get about 5 million or so that I would call capital maintenance. So that gets me to about 60 million a year, something like that. So I'm not quite reaching the optimum there, the 70 million a year that we would achieve or really need. And so we're still tracking about a 150, $200 million backlog of capital maintenance. So it's helping us kind of maybe stay about where we are with a current backlog of about 200 million. I think when you see our facilities, if you visit our facilities, they're in very good shape, quite good shape, and so we're getting by pretty well. But there's still a significant backlog, and this amount of money gets us almost even to where we need to be on an annual basis.
And so, what are the types of things that aren't on this list? Where are the areas that you would expect we're going to be short? You know, if we follow the plan you just laid out, there's some types of projects that are essentially off the list that aren't funded. What are those types of things that we're not going to be able to fund based on the current plan?
I would say I have 21 systems on here. So I think I've captured almost all the systems. I can't think of any that aren't on here, but they're just not fully funded where they would need to be. So rather than a system being completely missing, we're touching everything. It's just maybe not where our scope isn't as wide as it would need to be to attack all the facility needs at all the facilities. So there's going to be, some shabby looking paint, some shabby looking carpet, some playgrounds that are maybe look like, it's a little bit old, a roof leak here or there, those kinds of things. So we're going to be somewhat deficient in all these systems, but trying to keep them all usable, habitable to a pretty good degree. I think we're being pretty successful. Of course, we're way better off than we were 5-6 years ago when it was zero.
Right.
And if I can add to Mr. Griffin's question and what you just answered, Ron, looking ahead to get to the point where we don't have a deficit. As you recall, the difference between the Phase 4 program and Phase 5 program, we decreased capital construction, we increased capital maintenance. So the number, the financial ability that Ron has increased, is being increased in this program. And the expectation is in the next building program, that construction number will continue to go down and the maintenance number will continue to go up so that we can hopefully get to that point where we get the backlog down.
So that was actually going to be my question, Jeff. What are we in round 5 of this 1 cent sales tax?
This is the second extension of the first sales tax. So this is the third sales tax.
So 1060, right? Okay. And that was the plan when you asked us to start pulling some of the money from the 1 cent sales tax out of construction and to help backlog this maintenance. We've done that for one full 1 cent sales tax now. Are we making progress?
Absolutely. Ron would have the exact numbers, but if I recall correctly, we were well over $200 million in a backlog of maintenance and repair. Ron, you might have the exact number. I mean, you're saying we're down around 150?
150.
At the end of this program?
We're about holding where we were, I think, at the beginning of that program, because when this program started, the average funding has been 28 million for this current program. So that's about half of where it needs to be. So it's not really, we haven't really caught up and chipping it away. We're kind of holding our own, I would say. So maybe
when do we start chipping away is my question.
At the backlog?
Right, because it's, we'll do capital construction for the third time using 1 cent sales tax. Jeff just referenced the fact that we'll almost have to do a fourth time in 5 years. When does this tip? Where's your tipping point that we stop, that we don't have this backlog that we have had? Because we've built, and Jeff, we've built a ton of buildings. So I see the need to decrease construction. Where's that tipping point?
I'd say when we tip over 70 million a year, when we get over 70 million a year of annual investment in the capital maintenance, the capital renewal, that's when we'll start seeing a decrease of the backlog. And we're not there yet. So we're kind of maintaining, holding our own.
Right. Jeff, will we get to that in our lifetime? I mean, 2328 is not getting us there. 2833, are we going to get there then?
I have confidence we'll get there. I think the other potential possibility, even though again, it could be, you could consider a roll of the dice, is that if the revenues increase during this building program, we could add more money to capital maintenance. And I will tell you, even though the financial wizards and Joyce will probably say, don't say that. The revenues over the last year have been incredible. And nobody projected coming out of the pandemic that we were going to have the numbers that we're having. So I'm optimistic that if that continues, or at least stays at the projected level from the current baseline, we'll have more revenues to assign. We'll have more revenues to assign as we get through this program.
Thank you.
I think
one way to look at it also, so Jeff made a comment that the substantial increase in the capital maintenance once the sales starts from phase 5, that means substantial increase over the amount for phase 4. And then we look forward towards the end of the phase 5, that'll be very close to when we will be out of debt. So we will be out of debt at 2030. And so I would say, if I would just go like take a quick look into the future, that when we get around another 9 or 10 years out from now, we should be well positioned to pretty much eliminate eliminate that backlog and become what Ron is calling even that closer to a much lower backlog number. And if there's something that's we may need to capture, then once we're out of debt, we have freed up a lot of money under the 8% debt capacity.
So Donna, I'm hopeful that is the way things, the path we're on. But Jeffrey, Ron, are these numbers, I know they're not specific cost estimates, but I wonder if at the time you came up with these estimates, they're probably based on benchmarks. Where I'm going with this is, do you think they adequately reflect the inflation environment we've been in related to some of these component pieces? You all know better than I do how quickly some of the cost components have gone up in these areas. Do you feel like these numbers are current, or are they a little bit inflation dated?
No, these should be current, because we've been trying to catch up. There was a 20-30% miss in the first program that we had to kind of correct, but I think we're there, and the model has inflation built into it as well. So
great.
I think it's pretty close. And this has fees for design and construction management built in as well.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussions? We look forward to y'all just keeping us apprised of where we are as we move forward with the projects. So with that, if no one has questions, I will entertain a motion on the capital maintenance plan, phase 5.
So
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff and Ron, on that one. The IT Steering Committee Quarterly Report, Tom?
Good afternoon. So I'm happy to bring you the steering committee minutes from October. And so first we want to say thank you to Ms. Green for taking time out of her busy schedule to join us. It was great to have you with us and have you hear some of our acronyms and all those kind of things that we throw around. So we started out, first of all, with great news. You've heard us talking about the IP or the IP addresses that we were selling on the open market. And we discussed that a little bit more. We finally got our check in. So it was 1.98 million that came in. And so that's done. And that was a big gift. So as you remember, the board approved to let us use that funding to help renovate Garrett to relocate IT into a more stable building and better sized building. So in our meeting, we kind of, in our previous meeting, we talked about just our theory in general, our infrastructure in general. This time we went a little bit deeper and we talked about the technology in the classrooms. We met at Lucy Beckham. So we were able to see some of the technology firsthand. And, one of the first discussions we had was that everything that we do, everything that we purchase and design is not based on what school it's in. It's just every school that we do gets the exact same hardware, network equipment, circuits, that kind of stuff. And that really went a long way into discussion. We talked about the wide area network and some of the security, some of the hardware. And then we took a tour of the school and showed them one of the telecommunication closets and the way that we're spending a lot of time and energy in our design as we build these buildings to put in nice, clean installs. Everything's labeled properly, a nice atmosphere to try to maintain for security and longevity. And after that, we had a nice open discussion back in the classroom where we had about 8 questions from our members, which were led into some very good and lengthy discussions about how we're planning to do asset tracking and lifecycle management, which brought up some concerns about our current budgets and how we're going to try to maintain a 5-year replacement of the iPads and the Chromebooks for the students and those types of things. So it was a great meeting, and we're looking forward to the next one. Any questions?
So did I hear you say that we're locating IT into the Garrett building?
And part of the ARC, ma'am.
So Jeff, are we ever going to surplus that building?
No, ma'am, we're not surplusing it at this point. We're going to hold on to that campus. If you recall, the ARC is the newest portion of that complex. If we have to recapitalize and rebuild out there, we would keep the ARC in place and demolish the 1950s, 60s building that's out there.
So we plan on keeping that in our stock.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And as of right now, just as looking ahead to the next few years, that would more than likely be the swing space for Morningside.
Okay, any questions for Tom? I enjoyed attending that meeting, Tom. It was a great idea to take your meetings. I don't know if y'all do this on a regular basis, but out to the schools. It was good to see all that stuff that I know nothing about.
Great.
Next item, thank you, Tom. Next item on the agenda is the monthly capital projects report. Joyce?
Yes, good afternoon. I'd like to present the October capital projects report. Our revenue collections for the month of September in the sales tax program were $2 million above the projected 2%. The expenditures for the 2010-2016 program were $63,000. The expenditures for the 2017 through 2022 building program were $6.1 million. The expenditures for the 2023 through 2028 building program were $383,000. And the 8% capital maintenance program had $330 in expenditures. Our fixed cost of ownership fiscal year 22 program has commenced and is underway. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Joyce? Thank you so much, as always.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, the fiscal year 21 financial statement. Did I miss one? Oh, I'm sorry. The 2021 school district procurement code. Kennedy and Schwartz. I'm sorry. Did I miss one again?
No, this 2021 school district procurement code.
Right.
So that's a update to the code. Mr. Wiltshire is going to walk through the summary of the major changes that relate to thresholds for advertising procurements, as well as giving preferences to in-state vendors and local vendors. So,
good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you. The procurement code here, the significant changes to the procurement code reflects the thresholds. And currently, we only have one particular threshold for buying goods and services. Now we now we would have 3 thresholds there. And the significant changes, currently our small purchase threshold is $2,500. So anything over $2,500, we would have to go out for bid in some form or manner. Now the threshold will move from $2,500 up to $10,000. So anything from $10,000 and below, we now have to go out for competitive bids. And anything that exceeds 10,000 to 50,000, we will require 3 formal quotes where we would call up 3 vendors and request bids or proposals from them. And then anything that exceeds $50,000, we would have to do a formal solicitation. And as I said, the changes are going from $2,500 to $10,000 and from $10,000 to $50,000. Those, and then the next significant changes affect the construction area and commercially off-the-shelf items. Items that are commercially off-the-shelf, for instance, calculators and things of that nature, if they don't exceed $30,000, we could go straight out for bids for those. And if for its construction, anything that exceeds $100,000, we would have to go out for bid. Currently, the threshold for construction is $2,500 and $10,000. Now the threshold moves for small constructions up to $100,000. And then for as sealed bids, currently anything that exceeds $50,000, we would have to go out for sealed bid. And what is meant by that, we will request for proposal versus a lowest bid. In most of our contracts, we request a low bid, but if it exceeds $50,000, we will request a sealed proposal. Now it moves to $100,000. Mr. Griffin, were you asking the question?
No.
Okay, and then the final significant change in the code is the preferences, where before we didn't include state preferences in our bids. Now we include state preferences and preferences that are common to South Carolina and to the U.S. If those are the major changes, are there any questions concerning those changes?
What would this, Wayne, what would this do to your workload in the procurement office?
It will eliminate the number of solicitations that we have to do monthly. Currently, on average, we do about 10 to 15 solicitations a month. This should reduce that to maybe down to five solicitations. And one of the things that we currently don't have is a bid management software. So this helps us tremendously, since we don't have a bid management software, this helps us tremendously for as our workload goes with those solicitations.
Yeah, it's taken South Carolina a long time to get here, but that is really good news for my years of working with them and for working with procurement issues. So, does anybody have any questions for Wayne or Don on the procurement changes? If not, Wayne, thank you for that report.
Well, it's up for approval.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'll entertain a motion.
I moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Okay, now thank you for that report, Wayne.
Thank you.
The fiscal year 21 financial statement now, right?
Oh, yes, I'm just going to comment that Wayne's been working on this procurement code for 2 years, so I took the vote. In November, at the Audit Finance Committee meeting, the external auditors, Green Finney, they briefed the committee on their preliminary results for fiscal year 21. They agreed that we would close the year at $146 million fund balance, and that if there were any significant changes to that number, they would come back to the committee before we submitted financial statements to the state. We did submit financial statements on December the 1st. The final number is instead of 146 million, it's 145.3 million, so it's $700,000 off of what they have projected, and that's due to final reconciliations between the financial schedules and the district's trial balance. So Wayne Finney and I consider that to be not material in terms of material change in the numbers that we're here with. And so we bring this to you all as information. Wayne Finney will be the full school board on December 13th at the regular school board meeting on the results of fiscal year 21. So what questions do you have?
Any questions for Don on the financial statement? Okay, if not, thanks, Don, and you can move right into the monthly financial statement.
Thanks very much. So the monthly financial statement, we're reminding the committee again that we have two formats for the monthly financial statement. The first iteration of that statement is for the first half of the fiscal year. And so what you see now is the first half type of analysis. And then when we get into the second half of the year, as of December 31, we will start. We'll change the format and provide more details. For this, the first iteration, we simply take a look at the actuals year to date, both revenue and expenditures for the current fiscal year. We compare that to the prior fiscal year, and then the variance to see if there's anything that looks abnormal. And if so, we explain what that is. We do have some variances here. They are explainable, so nothing to be concerned about. The first one is in the local revenue. We have $12.5 million more in local revenue this year than we did at this time last year, and that's still simply because of the lack of a regular scheduled distribution of local revenues from the county treasurer's office into the other governmental entities. So last year we were behind because the county treasurer's office distributed revenues to us much later in the calendar year, around November, December, whereas this year it's much earlier. So we would expect that to even out as the months unfold. The other revenue amount is shown at the state level, $107,000 under, and that's in a timing issue associated with the manufacturing depreciation taxes that the school districts receives, and so we are the state's a month behind to get those allocations out to the school districts. So that's it on the revenue side. The major differences on the expenditure side, take a look at the salaries and benefits. There we are over from last year. Of course, we added the West Ashland CAS and additional staff for the English language learners department, as well as translation services. So those are explaining the cost of the increased requirements there. And then on purchase services, we're at $2.1 million higher because of responses to COVID-19, as well as the first student transportation invoices coming in later last year compared to this year. As you recall, last year was the first year of the first student contract. So anytime, at least in my history, we have a major contract change, then there's some process growth issues, and that was associated with the invoices being received back from first student by the district. Essentially greater than what we normally expect. That was last year. That did not occur this year. And the last one I would say is the transfers. The transfers are primarily related to charter school payments, as well as Meter Street. And so those payments to charter school are strictly based on the student count and the various demographic profiles of students. What we call the average daily membership. So as that changes, in this case, that enrollment has increased in charter schools, So we've had to pay additional bill. So that's it for the October financial statement, nothing that's out of the ordinary. Once we get into presented to the Audit and Finance Committee early in the calendar year, we will switch from this format to where we will actually project what we expect to end the fiscal year. And so that'll be February 1st. The first time we see that, we'll give you a projection of where we think we will end the year, both revenue, expenditures, and the impact on the fund balance. And then as we get into successive months, that projection becomes much more refined. And so just give you a sense of what that looks like when we briefly required the Finance Committee late summer, early fall of this back a few months ago. We predicted that we would, and even back into late spring, that we would end the year roughly at the $145 million fund balance number. That's the fact that we did. That's the question. Yeah.
Any questions for Don on the financial statement? Okay, if not, Don, you can keep going on the 45-day enrollment counts.
So presented to the Audit and Finance Committee, and this will go to the board also in 45-day enrollment count. And so this is the 45th day of school for this year. It will be required by the state, also this to submit to the state our enrollment counts as of the 45th day. And it's the state has to review and approve those numbers, and they use that as the basis to begin to adjust their allocation, revenue allocations to districts. The next count we will get will be the 90th day. The state will not use those 90-day numbers to make adjustments. But they will at the 135th day. So we have the 45th day that the state makes adjustments in revenue allocation based on enrollment. And then again on the 135th day. So the 135th day numbers here we have the basis for the final calculations of our fiscal year 22 revenue allocations from the state, as well as the basis for the beginning allocations for fiscal year 23. And so we take a look at the enrollment numbers. The total enrollment numbers have gone up slightly compared to last year, which is good. But we did have some decreases in certain areas, and we tried to understand what those most valuable, so for instance, in gifted and talented, there's some decreases there. There's some decreases in CTE or the creative technology education.
Any questions on the 45-day report? Okay. All right, thank you, Don. So items going to the board.
The items would be all of the action items.
Right.
And then on the information items would be the monthly capital projects report. 2010-2016 capital building program phase 3. The substantial closeout report. Monthly financial statement. Just the monthly financial statement. And that's the green finish. So, 45 days.
Yeah, 45 days.
45 days account.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Nope.
What a meeting time. Well, thank you guys, everyone. And if I don't see any of you before, happy holidays. Be safe.
Happy holidays.